What's up everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and that you're following the 3 H's of the channel. In this video, it's all about the state of Minnesota. I don't think I've ever done this state before, so definitely pull up a stump with me and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. I was a night concierge at a rural hotel in Minnesota from 1996 to 2001. I have a lot of stories from the 5 years that I worked there. It was 3 a.m. I was doing what I do usually, sitting behind the front desk trying not to fall asleep. I was dozing off when I heard the front door open. I look up and see a large guy struggling to close the door against the wind and the snow. He's wearing a large gray winter coat with an ushanka. He walks up to the front desk and I get a better look at him. His face is covered with a balaclava and snow goggles. "Hello, sir. Welcome to," name of the hotel. He doesn't say anything, just lays a stack of cash on the desk. I say, "Sir, I need a credit card and ID to give you a room." He doesn't say anything, he just lays another stack. "Sir, I'm afraid I can't help you." I hear a click. His jacket is now wide open, revealing an arm, pointing a small revolver at me. At this point, I just turn around and grab a key off the wall and give it to him. "Enjoy your stay." For some reason, my 20-something brain thinks to not call the cops until the morning. It's a small town, so none of the cops would have even been up. I get off my shift at 8. I call the cops then. Once they arrive, we head to his room. I open the door for them. There's no one in the room. The bed is made. The TV is on, displaying static. The cops check the security footage. Nobody left the room. In fact, the security footage never shows him arriving in a car. He just walks up to the hotel from the forest. This is extremely strange, since the hotel was 20-ish miles from the nearest town. He didn't give me an ID or a credit card, so we couldn't find out who he was. We, in fact, never found out who or what he was. I had a rather odd encounter with some humanoid creature or even a spirit possibly, just a few nights ago, and I haven't been able to come up with a rational answer as to what I had seen. It happened about 8 years ago when I was biking home from work. I worked the closing shift at the time at my local Walgreens, and I got off around 10:30. I live only 30 minutes away by bike from my job, but most of the way home is by a heavily forested trail, which doesn't have very many streetlights, so it's always pitch black when I'm going home. Well, about 5 minutes-ish into the bike ride going home, I hit the beginning of where the streetlights ended and the darkness began, and like I always do, I pull up my phone and turn on the flashlight option so I can illuminate my way home. Well, only a few seconds later, after I had turned it on, I tilted it up more, and I froze, because I saw this tall, skinny, pale-looking figure just for a brief second, before it fell onto all fours, and like the wind, it was gone into the woods. Shortly after, I started to pedal as fast as I could, because I had no clue what it was that I had seen, when I heard a low screech, and whatever it was keeping pace with me, hidden in the woods and out of sight. I managed to get out of that area quickly, and I didn't see or hear anything after I left that heavily wooded area, but a while later, I caught the scent of what smelled like fresh blueberry pancakes or waffles, like as if someone was standing out in the field with a hot plate of just the pan blueberry waffles or pancakes, which didn't make sense to me, as there were no buildings in the area where that scent was, so I figured perhaps whatever I had seen was possibly using the scents to try and draw people into the fields or woods. Now, I do know a few areas around that trail that are supposedly very haunted. There's a dinner theater that's not far from it, and a supposed haunted water tower in there as well, and a couple of other places. I still, no matter what I think of, I can't rationalize or debunk what I saw. It couldn't be a deer because I've talked to people around the area and no one's seen a deer ever in the area. And besides, it was standing on 2 feet when I saw it, like it was humanoid. It couldn't have been another wildlife because the only wildlife spotted in the area are squirrels and birds. But I figured I would share this experience to see if anyone has had something similar or may know a possible rationalized explanation for what I could have seen. I'm not really into the paranormal, but I had an experience about 18 years ago that I've never been able to explain. It was the fall of 2006 or 2007. I was making the 2-hour drive home from a university along a rural country back road in northern Minnesota. The roads along this route are paved and ditches are well maintained. The land is just off the right-of-way and is forested. For anyone curious, this was on a County Road 58 near Two Inlets, Minnesota. I was in a section of roadway with a nice long winding turn. Very fun driving. It was just dark enough at this point to need headlights to see. As I came around one of these winding turns, the beam of my headlights caught a humanoid figure standing in the long grass in the ditch, maybe 50 feet in front of my car. As my car turned and the lights shone on it, the thing strode gracefully but quickly the 20 or 30 feet into the woods just off the right-of-way. The thing was at least 7 feet tall, much taller than a normal man, but standing naturally erect. Definitely not an animal on its hind legs. It was gray with no hair and was very thin enough to see the joints. It was similar, from what I could tell, from a stereotypical gray alien type figure. It walked so quickly and gracefully, I've never seen anything like it. Wildlife typical to that area are bear, deer, rabbits, the occasional wolf, but I can't think of anything that explains what I saw. After I saw the thing, I contemplated turning the car around to try and have another look, or maybe find some tracks. But I was in full-on freak-out mode, so I just kept driving. I was pretty shaken up when I made it home. I'll state for the record that I'm a Christian, and I tended to wonder if I saw some kind of demon or evil spirit from the feeling it gave me. I certainly don't think it felt like an angel. I was deep inside of a forest in the northernmost area of Minnesota. It's slightly southwest of Lost River Forest. Autumn was just beginning, and the trees were a vibrant orange and yellow as far as the eye can see. The tree line was absolutely stunning as you look around 360 degrees and see nothing but impossibly bright foliage. It was a stunningly beautiful place. A friend and I drove about 10 hours to get out there after randomly selecting a place we thought would be as secluded as possible for an awesome man versus nature week-long excursion. Our friends and family all know where we are. They know the general area of where I'll be parking the car and where we'll be camping. We each have a super small, low-profile single tent, but we had planned on sleeping out in the open since the weather forecast is all clear and the sky is impossibly black at night when you're this far away from any man-made light source. Shit goes horribly wrong from the very minute that we arrive there. Right as we pull off the road into the small clearing, we see 2 white-tailed bucks headbutting one another. We don't want to get near them or spook them and risk them charging at us, so we wait in the car until they finish their deer business. But their racks get stuck together, and after 20 minutes of intense struggling, they haven't freed themselves, and yet neither one of them is capable of standing. We try to call the DNR, but the best signal we could get is 1 bar, so the call cuts out, and we have to play phone tag for about 30 minutes to phone it in, only to be told that someone may get around to it. We unpack our stuff and turn a blind eye to the deathlocked deer, who may or may not be rescued anytime soon. Before we even start walking, We're both slightly tired from the frustration of our journey having gotten off to a rough start. 3 hours into the hike, we stop for lunch. We're both tired, and we contemplate making camp where we stopped. We're both experienced enough to know that a second wind can be your downfall, so we stay put. We begin unpacking some supplies. We have mess kits, a small shovel, fire starter, our single tents, sling rifles across our backs because why not? A strong wind blows through, scattering a plume of perfectly yellow leaves from trees that appear to be 200 feet tall when looking straight at them. We hear a creaking sound inside the wind. Every thought I have exits my mind as I focus on that peculiar noise. I know exactly what it sounds like, a falling tree. I shout at the top of my lungs for all of creation to hear, falling tree, despite the fact that the only other human in the area is standing 3 feet to my right. A tree does fall over, which makes a spectacularly unimpressive thump. Something that big you'd think would rumble the earth like thunder, especially since it made so much noise as it was cracking. But the drama queen of a tree wasn't what startled us. Seconds after the tree falls, we see a large black orb dart from one tree to another high in the tree line, and then we see another and another. Large black shapes are jumping around back and forth, making odd warbling sounds. Before my mind could even begin to rationally process what my eyes were seeing, these black balls erupt from the tree line and then take to the skies, which was fairly frightening at first glance. I had always been told in school that turkeys could barely fly, and everyone who told me that was a liar. 4 turkeys were perched in the highest branches of these trees. They all shot skyward in unison shortly after the tree fall. Who the hell knew they could do that? Seconds later, we regained our composure and had a laugh as we started to dig a little fire pit. My buddy went to gather some stones to surround the pit that I was digging. I finished before he returned, so I sat down and rested for a few minutes, leaning up against my pack, which I had removed a bottle of cheap apple brandy from. I must have spaced out because I didn't hear my buddy walking back. I was harshly pulled back into reality by a kick to my back, which put me into an instant adrenaline rush. Tunnel vision, no fine motor control, thinking a mile a minute. I spring up like a cat on catnip and turn around to see my buddy carrying a couple rocks with a really wide grin on his face. I called him an idiot and sat back down against my pack as I swallow my beating heart back down into my chest. After a few minutes, I feel like I've been awake for 24 full hours. I'm ready to fall asleep, and there's still plenty of light outside. My buddy doesn't have any complaints, since we're in the place where we're spending the night anyways. He pulls out some novel and flips through the pages while sipping some of the $16 brandy. I wake up at 2 a.m., which is a slight problem because I've slept for around 11 hours, and my sleep schedule is completely out of whack now. I can't fall back asleep no matter how long I keep my eyes closed, and the situation isn't helped by the fact that I'm now so awake that I'm incredibly aware of every single sound in the forest. Every time the leaves rustle in the wind, I focus on them to determine whether or not the sound is actually footsteps. I decide to just get up and be productive instead of laying down and psyching myself out. I gather some brush and start a fire in our fancy little fire pit, since campfires are nature's television. The fire's going pretty strong, and I'm letting about an inch diameter branches burn down to the coals and ash, totally hypnotized by the flames and glowing coals. I hear something that I want to be a gust of wind. After laying in the pitch black in the middle of the absolute wilderness and psyching myself out over every little sound, I really wanted to tell myself that I was just hearing wind blowing, that what I was hearing was just the leaves. Life, unfortunately, doesn't hear silent prayers and sometimes places at our feet a situation in which the outcome is entirely uncertain. 20 yards away from me, I see the outline of a man. By this point, there's no real light coming from the dwindling campfire. And even if there were, it wouldn't be enough to illuminate something that far away. This black outlined figure is stopped directly in front of me and doesn't move an inch for 10 minutes. The moon is out, and the grass and trees in the background aren't totally black. Some yellow-green switchgrass provides a contrast to his lower body, but I can't make out any detail in what he's wearing. The only distinguishing feature I can see is his hair. It's long and black, and under the moonlight, it's shining like glass. After an indeterminate period of time where we observed one another, he began walking toward me and my sleeping compatriot. Realizing I had been petrified in a stupor of equal parts curiosity and fear, I said in the sternest and clearest voice possible, "Buddy, wake up." Something must have clicked right in his mind, because he not only woke up, but he immediately stood up out of his sleeping bag. Sober as a saint, he was immediately at full attention and saw the black figure walking toward us. He grasped a small hatchet on his belt. I hadn't gotten up by this point, but I clumsily fumbled around my sleeping bag and placed my hand on top of my rifle that I had laid beside me. With my other hand, I tossed a couple more twigs into the smoldering fire pit and stood up, feigning a stretch as if to appear as non-threatening as possible while holding a loaded AK in one hand. The black stranger is now about 5 yards away, and I can make out more and more detail on him. He's a dark-skinned man, wearing denim jeans and a denim jacket. Hair is the very definition of jet black, and looks like honest-to-God silk. My buddy puffs out his chest and projects his voice in the most masculine way possible, saying, "Can we help you, bub?" The guy, who I now realize is definitely Native American, stops in his tracks and asks with a very puzzled tone, "Why are you sleeping this way?" He then says something under his breath that I couldn't make out, but I could tell from the way he shook his head and sighed that he was expressing disappointment. He says, "There is danger in the woods. Sleeping under open skies invites all spirits with no protection." My buddy and I collectively what, but we relax a bit, since the guy doesn't appear to be the Lost River Butcher or anything of the sort, though I can't ignore the odd hour of the morning that he is up and walking around by his lonesome. We ask the guy if he wants to sit by the fire and tell us what's up, because the situation is a little odd and standoffish. I realize that it's impossible for him to not see the gun that I'm holding. He nods his head, and he sits directly in front of the fire as my friend and I are on opposite sides. Without a word from us, he begins lecturing us on the sanctity of the forest and the balance in nature that needs to be preserved. He tells us that men have grown clumsy with our steps because our shoes have hard bottoms and we cannot feel the earth. He tells us that we walk very loudly through the forest, and everything in the forest hears us. He tells us that something very dark has happened, and the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and my friends as well. The direction of this little chat is going south quickly. I'm just about ready to bolt up when he raises his hands and motions for me to sit back down. For some absolute stupid reason, I comply with his Jedi mind trick. He goes on to tell us that 2 of the forest's creatures died last night, and they died in great agony. He says the forest's heart is wounded, it weeps, and the spirits of these animals will hurt the mother forest unless they are untangled and given to the forest so they can return to it. I swear by this point my body temperature must have dropped like 20 degrees. In a split second, I knew exactly what he was talking about. There was nothing else it could be. The stone-faced native man was talking about the 2 deer that locked antlers and got stuck together. It happened just a few yards away from our car. This guy had to know that it was our car, and had to know that we saw it. My buddy pipes up and asks rather bluntly, "What is it you're wanting here, because you're kind of spooking us out?" The man stands up, claps his hands, grabs my little bucket of water, and douses the fire. The suddenness of his actions slightly startled me, so I jumped to my feet and stepped back a yard. As soon as I do, he drops to his knees and stirs the fire pit with a stick quite meticulously. He puts his hands into the coals and rubs soot all over them, claps his hands together, and presses his right hand firmly against his face, making a char handprint on his face. He then calmly says, "We are going to right a great wrong." I have no idea why, but as soon as this guy gets up and starts walking down the trail, both my friend and I follow him. We don't even question it. He's just, I don't know, working Jedi mind tricks left and right on us. After what seems like just seconds of walking, we're at our parking spot, and sure enough, there are two apparently dead white-tailed deer locked at the antlers just a few yards away from the car. He walks right over and straddles one of them, shaking its head about trying to free it. Without him saying a word, my friend and I go to the other deer and do the same. After a few seconds, the two deer are free, and the man lunges at each of us, grabbing our hands. Again, for reasons unknown to either of us, we just do whatever this guy wants, and the next thing I know, I grab my buddy's hand. He's straddling a deer, and my buddy and I both beside the other, but we're holding hands now. The man begins some sort of chant. The feeling that we got from it was crazy, like something straight out of a movie. After a couple of minutes of this, he says, "We must return them to the mother forest." Upon saying so, he grabbed the front legs of one of the carcasses and began carrying it away to the tree line. My friend and I grabbed the other and followed him, again without question. We bushwhacked maybe 100 yards in and laid the two dead animals a few feet away from each other. Here, the wolves and scavengers can find them, and they'll be part of the circle of the mother forest again. The heart of the mother forest can mend, knowing that her children will return to her. She will be made whole. Not much was said after that, and by the time we said our awkward goodbyes and walked back to our camp, the sun had been up for an hour. My buddy looks at me and says, "You know we're never coming here again, right? I'm done. I'm effing done. That's my line. I'm done." I agree with his sentiments. We pack up our stuff and begin walking back to our car. It's about 10 a.m. now, and we're well on the road. I've got 2 bars on my cell phone, so I call the DNR again to see if they were going to send anyone about the 2 deer. The lady at the DNR tells me that they did send someone, a Ranger John. Apparently, he lives in the area. They tell me he called a few hours ago, and he said that he and a couple of boys took care of it. I responded with a meager, "Oh, okay. Well, bye." At 2 in the morning, the peak of blackness in the night, I was visited by a native mystic. He is a stoic figure who protects the mother forest and all the animals who live within her, who are a part of her. He rights wrongs in the mother forest and maintains the balance to keep the mother's heart safe. His name is Ranger John. I wonder if the DNR pays him overtime for all the work he does. This happened over 10 years ago, and it still sticks with me. So those encounters were definitely strange, weren't they? If one stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. For me, it was definitely Ranger John. And if you have one of your own, I'd love to hear about it at the email in the description. And if you would like to donate to the channel, there is a PayPal and a Patreon in the description as well as super thanks here on YouTube. And with that, I thank you for pulling up a stump with me. I hope you enjoyed the videos this week, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.